Welcome to Between State Lines.
Welcome back to Between State Lines, episode 23. You are listening to this after Thanksgiving, and you are in December now, but we are before Thanksgiving. We are in the past, a ways away. And where is Stephanie today? She's in the same house, a different room, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. Different room every week.
Let me ask you a question. Random, not spooky at all. How do you fold your towels and rags?
Oh, I've been taught a couple different ways, but the way that I like, you fold the insides in and meet them in the middle and then curl it over. It looks like hotel style. I don't know. I like it.
I like that style, but my mother-in-law was here last year and she was folding towels and rags. And I have like really bad OCD. And so if it's done a different way, I have to correct it. And like a psychopath, she was folding them with the tags sticking out.
Mm.
And not only that, it was like one had a tag out, the next one didn't. And then two more did, and then one didn't. And I was like, okay, look, psycho, can we can we do this one way?
This sounds like my mom. Yes, my mom has done this.
People who do this, I want you to answer this question. Email us, comment on the TikTok. I want you to tell me why you fold your towels this way. What what gives you the right to be this way?
Yeah, I mean, my mom folds all towels like a beach towel. Like we're just doing like the whatever. She does it with pants too, and I'm like, you have worked in retail my entire life. How do you not care about this? Like, I worked at Old Navy for like a hot second, and I have a standard when it comes to folding pants.
There's a certain way to do it. If you don't do it, you're wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. Same with shirts. Like, I fold shirts a certain way. I put my shirts on the hangers a certain way, and yeah, I don't know. I'm like very OCD about that stuff because if I'm not going to do it right, why do it?
Exactly. Yeah. I'll just redo it behind you.
Yeah, no. Why do it? I've told my mom that. I'm like, you're not actually making things easier if you don't do it the way that I like, because I'm going to go back and redo it. She thinks that I'm really rude for that. My bad.
Um so my daughter is feral, apparently, like your kids are.
Hmm.
Um we're on video with my mom and dad tonight, talking to them, and then she leaves the room and she goes quiet. And I was like, okay, this is not good. I look around, and look up the stairs, and I just see her dart between my office and my bedroom, laughing maniacally the entire way.
I've had this happen to me. What did she do?
She was taking I have Funko Pops in my office, and she
Mhm.
was taking them out of there and bringing them into the bedroom behind the curtain and hiding them. And then when I walked into the bedroom, she threw herself on the floor like she was asleep.
Genius. Genius. My daughter does stuff like that, but she's like destructive when she does it. Like she'll find the Lego set and she'll like go hide and dismantle the whole thing. And it's like, she's done it with so many things, so many little projects that my son's come up with. I feel so bad for him. He could not keep any nice things because his little sister is just diabolical.
I can't imagine having two of them, two feral kids.
Well, my son, he's a sweetheart. Like he'll do anything for his sister too. So that's kind of the problem. Like she's the diabolical one, and he's like, "Yes, Your Majesty."
Yeah. He's an enabler.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like since she was a baby, like I would put stuff up high and be like, okay, she can't get to it. And then all of a sudden she'd have it. And I was like, what happened? Well, she wanted it, so I gave it to her. Like, that defeats the purpose. Some things I have to be able to keep away from the baby.
Which reminds me, we put out Christmas last week, and I have these really old like snow globes, like probably like that big, and they're from J.C. Penney back in the day. They gave them away for Christmas or whatever. Um, and I've had them for like 24 years, and she's running around with two of them, smacking them together. And so I'm like
Oh,
running around trying to get him out of her hand, like trying to pin her down. And I get to her, and I'm like, okay, you can hold these, be gentle, don't tap them. And the second I say that, she taps them together, and one of them breaks. And so she's sitting there with I'm in, like, shock, covered in, like, I don't know what's, like, glycerine or whatever it is inside there, all, like, the snow pieces, and I'm standing there with her in my arms, and I'm like, "Oh my god," and then I see she's a piece of glass in her hand, and the snow globe in her hand, it's like a sharp glass protruding from it, and I was like, "Alright, how do I get these both out of your hands before you clench down?" And thankfully, somehow, I did it, but
oh my
psycho.
god. Yeah. Kids. Like, yeah, I feel like I've been there. Not exactly with the snow globes, but with the testing it and getting the broken glass and then being like, how do I go faster than this child? It feels impossible. But man, you did it. You harnessed the strength.
I don't know how. And apparently, so she with daycare now, she is still spitting and she's still tackling, but they've convinced her to start cleaning her spit up. So now she's obsessed with like cleaning. So she'll
Oh,
ask for a rag and soap before she even spits, and she just goes around wiping everything down. Like, well, that's that helps you, that helps us. Doesn't really solve the problem for spitting, but we'll get there.
yeah. Hey, this works for now. Do they do the cleanup song? Because it works wonders. My children, it will start the cleanup. And
They
my daughter
do.
will demand the rag. And if you don't bring it to her in like a timely manner, she's very upset.
They do this song at her school, and so we tried doing it here, and she'll clean up, of course, like her toys and stuff, and then she'll put all the toys in the bin, and then pull them out all same time. I'm like, okay, that likes the opposite of what we're trying to teach you. Let's try again. Let's reset.
Do over. Remix.
Do over. So this week I figured since it's post Thanksgiving for everybody, we have a little chill session. We won't talk about too many scary things. Maybe we will, but we won't. So I have two scary stories. They're both from Reddit, and I previously read one like 10 years ago, but the second one I have not proofread. However, so on an episode that it was when you were out, we read from Reddit as well, and I picked a story that was about a hitchhiker, and I thought it was a great story. I read like the first like paragraph, and it was great. And then basically the story was that this dude picked up a hitchhiker on the side of the road, and this totally normal hitchhiker, this driver devolved into him believing he was a mass murderer, and like basically telling us the readers that he had these like kung fu skills, like he's a black belt and could like beat this guy up, and like developing this whole backstory for this poor guy he picked up off the road. So it was an awful experience, and I did not proofread it, but that's my fault. But the second story has great ratings online, so I know it's actually good. It's not awful.
We'll give
So
Reddit another try.
we'll give Reddit another try. So this one's 12 years old. It's from our Let's Not Meet by user blue underscore title, and it's called The Smiling Man. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking all alone at night, and never once had I had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrolled park quite a ways away from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. So first of all, 1 in the morning and you're walking in a, I'm assuming like Central Park, like that. No,
Well,
you
they
don't do
said the police went over there. So, was that reassuring?
that. I don't believe them.
Yeah,
I feel like it makes it dangerous. Like, why are the police there?
I know. Like, yeah, did somebody call them? Like, you need to patrol this area because people walk here at 1 in the morning. Aren't there curfews? Like, you're not supposed to go to parks after certain times. I felt like it's
I feel like that.
close to
Yeah, I
sun.
think it probably is.
At least most parks. Like, you're not supposed to park there, so I doubt you're supposed to be walking there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean the cemetery near us has a curfew. Like I think it's dusk. But the gates stay open, which is weird. I don't know why they do that, but yeah.
Like,
Maybe one
imagine
night I'll do the.
locked in.
Well, yeah. Maybe one night I'll do the podcast in the cemetery. We can do it out there in the dark.
Yeah, you start
I'll have a little
switching
ring
stuff
night.
up too.
Exactly. Okay,
Will
so
not catch me
I
in
turned.
the
I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the end of the street, on my side, was the silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide, had head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street, and as I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I put a half block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty still, and unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and he was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved really fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him. And then he started moving towards me again. He took giant, exaggerated tiptoe steps, as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen as the smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling a smile, still looking at the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to me. What I meant to ask was, "What the fuck do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out of me was a whimper. What the regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started dance walking away. Just like that, not wanting to turn my back on him again, I watched him go until he was far enough away to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back towards me, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for another 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high, he looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see.
That was terrifying. Like, picturing it in my mind, that is terrifying. I don't want to go out walking. I didn't really want to do that before, but I definitely don't want to do it now. And it's pretty much dark all the time.
The idea, like, that he is this dude, this, first of all, this is supposed to be true. This is like not a fictional story. I mean, it could be fake, but it's supposed to be a true story. But the idea, like, this dude was like just this big ass smile on his face, and like it just seems like have you seen? I'm sure you haven't the Terrifier.
No, definitely not.
Okay,
Never
but have you
heard.
heard of it at all? Oh, you never. Okay, so basically, it's a clown who is like does like clown shit, like goofy, silly shit, and he's also a murderer. So the part of him like tiptoe dancing towards the guy, like that seems like something a psycho killer clown would do before he's
Yeah.
gonna kill you.
I was picturing like the Joker or like it felt like a very Beetlejuice kind of thing to do too. I don't know. It menacing. Absolutely menacing. And I've heard of like the face with like the smile that's too big for their face. That's petrifying. Like seeing that and then having it like just wildly dance and move in like these weird speeds and keeps going away but keeps coming back. No. No. And then
Yeah.
like, you've already heard your own voice. It doesn't come out like no. It'd be out of there. Or I'd
Well, it's
pass
awesome.
out. One or the other.
It's also like it's at night, so it's like not only is it terrifying, you know what he looks like, but you really don't know his whole like make out because you it's hard to see in the dark, and you're looking at shadows and like under street lights, and like you get that glimpse, which is more terrifying to me than just like seeing him out in the daylight.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I already can't see so good. I can't imagine like it's nighttime and seeing all these shadows and being like, is that person? Oh my god, they're getting larger. They're coming back at me. Like I don't know. Or just like when he was like on the side crouching. Ooh,
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the dancing Serbian lady?
I don't think so.
There's this lady. It's an urban myth in obviously in Serbia. I think parts of other countries in Eastern Europe, where this lady, um, you be out walking at night in the street, and this lady will be doing this random like cultural dance that's from Serbia, and it's like just a normal dance that people do in that country, but she does it at like again 2 in the morning, and her face, like, there's no expression on it. It's just like this creepy old lady just like dancing by herself. I'm gonna send you a TikTok video because like you probably will have a hard time sleeping tonight with that, but like that terrified me when I saw it first.
Yeah, that it sounds scary. You should send it to me. I'll give it a try. I still haven't. I tried to go with our dream talking. I can't have dreams that I want to have. Not right now, I guess. I'm also just not sleeping very good, but I tried this week. Just it wasn't working out. I'm gonna keep trying.
So I read I saw a TikTok video on the actual study, and I was wrong. It wasn't 2 years ago. It was like 2 months ago.
Oh,
Um, and so the way they did the study is that they had 2 people sleeping still, and they trained them both in lucid dreaming. Don't know how you do that, but they had like earbuds in each of their ears, and they transmit it when they detected one person was in REM cycle. They sent a message in like some weird sleep talk language thing they developed into the earbud. And then when they detected the person had received the message in their dream using the brainwaves, they then transmitted the message from that person from earbud to earbud, um, using those brainwaves into the other earbud. And that person also in REM cycle heard the message and they repeated it the next day or then when they woke up.
okay. That sounds more doable, I guess. Well, they have a lot of things that help them make this happen. And maybe we're not going to be able to replicate this.
Not with that attitude. So we need to get a machine that measures our brainwaves.
Well, like my Apple Watch tells me when I'm supposedly in REM sleep. So like I got that. But how do we teach ourselves to lucid dream?
So we go in the dream, and then we both decide to dream about going to Walt Disney World, getting in the elevator.
Yeah, I've been trying that for a week.
I'm really curious how you train someone to do that. Like, I don't know.
Sure, there's some TikToks for that. We'll have to look it up. We're
Seems
gonna
like
figure this out.
we're gonna figure it out. It seems like some Inception type nonsense.
Why not? Let's figure that out. That sounds like fun.
um. Okay, so the second one again, guys. This one's a little longer. If it ends up running over, we'll just do part 2 next time. But it's called Mr. Widemouth. And I don't see an author on this. What I can tell. Oh, here it is. Perfect Circle 35. And it's from 14 years ago, so quite a ways away.
Okay.
Okay. So, during my childhood, my family was like a drop of water in a vast river, never remaining in one location for long. We settled in Rhode Island when I was 8, and there we remained until I went to college in Colorado Springs. Most of my memories are rooted in Rhode Island, but there are fragments in the attic of my brain which belong to the various homes we had when I was much younger. Most of these memories are unclear and pointless, chasing after another boy in the backyard of a house in North Carolina, trying to build a raft to float on the creek behind the apartment we rented in Pennsylvania, and so on. But there is one set of memories which remains as clear as glass, as though they were just made yesterday. I often wonder whether these memories are simply lucid dreams produced by the long sickness I experienced that spring, but in my heart, I know they are real. My cat's like, she does this thing where she rubs, I don't know if your cats do this, but she like rubs on my legs and she like is doing it to overstimulate herself. And when she gets to a certain point, she'll attack me. So I'm
Hmm.
like, when are you going to attack me? Is this like a playful rub or is this like a I hate you rub?
She loves you for now.
Right for now until I do something wrong, like dare move my foot. Um, okay, we were living in a house just outside the bustling metropolis of New Vineyard, Maine, population 643. It was a large structure, especially for a family of 3. There were a number of rooms I didn't see in the 5 months we resided there. In some ways, it was a waste of space, but it was the only house in the market at the time, at least within an hour's commute to my father's place of work. The day after my 5th birthday, attended by my parents alone, I came down with a fever. The doctor said I had mono, which meant no rough play and more fever for at least another 3 weeks. It was horrible timing to be bedridden. We were in the process of packing our things to move to Pennsylvania, and most of my things were already packed away in boxes, leaving my room barren. My mother brought me ginger ale and books several times a day, and these served the function of being my primary form of entertainment for the next few weeks. Boredom always loomed around the corner, waiting to rear its ugly head and compound my misery. I don't exactly recall how I met Mr. Widemouth. I think it was about a week after I was diagnosed with mono. My first memory of the small creature was asking him if he had a name. He told me to call him Mr. Widemouth because his mouth was large. In fact, everything about him was large in comparison to his body. His head, his eyes, his crooked ears, but his mouth was by far the largest. You kind of look like a Furby, I said as he flipped through one of the books. Mr. Widemouth stopped and gave me a puzzled look. Furby? What's a Furby? He asked. I shrugged. You know, the toy, the little robot with big ears. You can pet and feed them, almost like a real pet. Oh, Mr. Widemouth resumed his activity. You don't need one of those. They aren't the same as having a real friend. I recall Mr. Widemouth disappearing every time my mother stopped checking on me. I lay under your bed, he later explained. I don't want your parents to see me because I'm afraid they won't let us play anymore. We didn't do much during those first few days. Mr. Widemouth just looked at my books, fascinated by the stories and pictures they contained. The third or fourth morning after I met him, he greeted me with a large smile on his face. I have a new game you can play, he said. We have to wait until after your mother comes to check on you because she can't see us play it. It's a secret game. After my mother delivered more books and soda at the usual time, Mr. Widemouth slipped out from under the bed and tugged my hand. We have to go to the room at the end of this hallway, he said. I objected at first, as my parents had forbidden me to leave my bed without their permission, but Mr. Widemouth persisted. The room in question had no furniture or wallpaper. Its only distinguishing feature was a window opposite the doorway. Mr. Widemouth darted across the room and gave the window a firm push, flinging it open. He then beckoned me to look out at the ground below. We were on the second story of the house, but it was on a hill, and from this angle, the drop was farther than 2 stories due to the incline. I like to play pretend up here, Mr. Widemouth explained. I pretend there is a big, soft trampoline below this window, and I jump. If you pretend hard enough, you bounce back up here like a feather. I want you to try. I was a 5-year-old with a fever, so only a hint of skepticism darted through my thoughts as I looked down and considered the possibility. I don't know, it's a long drop, I said. But that's part of the fun. It wouldn't be fun if it was only a short drop. If it were that way, you may as well just bounce on a real trampoline. I toyed with the idea, picturing myself falling through thin air only to bounce back to the window on something unseen by human eyes. But the realist in me prevailed. Maybe some other time, I said. I don't know if I have enough imagination. I could get hurt. Mr. Widemouth's face contorted into a snarl, but only for a second. Anger gave way to disappointment. If you say so, he said. He spent the rest of the day under my bed, quiet as a mouse. The following morning, Mr. Widemouth arrived holding a small box. I want to teach you how to juggle. Here are some things you can use to practice before I start giving you a lesson. I looked in the box. It was full of knives. My parents will kill me, I shouted, horrified that Mr. Widemouth had brought me knives into the room. Objects my parents would never allow me to play with or touch. I'll be spanked and grounded for a year. Mr. Widemouth frowned. It's fun to juggle with these. I want you to try it. I pushed the box away. I can't. I'll get in trouble. Knives aren't safe to throw in the air. Mr. Widemouth's frown deepened into a scowl. He took the box of knives and slid under my bed, remaining there the rest of the day. I began to wonder how often he was under me. I picture Mr. Widemouth looks like a frog in my mind, like a frog with like a big freaking eyes and big mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. When he said he was like a Furby, I started to picture something like that, but like I guess more of, oh, what is it called before they're gremlins? Whatever gives
Oh,
one.
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I picture something like that where you just can't fully trust it. It's supposed to be cute, but no.
It's obviously really creepy.
Yeah, secret games with kids? Nope. Nope. None of it. And
Let's
then
jump out the window.
yeah, and have you heard that like when you are little and sick that you're like kind of in between like you I've heard of people saying that like their kids can astral project and that they've heard their kids in their bed basically it's almost like a near death experience but it's really just because they're like so new to this realm or whatever. I don't know. It's a scary thought. And then thinking of like this thing is whatever's in that realm.
Do you think this is like a demon or just like a I don't know. I feel like I personally think he's a demon, but I could see him being like some kind of whack creature.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say something like a demon. Like a demon disguising itself as something that a child might want to trust. But
Oh,
it's
speaking
also
of
that wide mouth sounds like a shadow person.
of demons, I saw a YouTube video today by Papa Meat. I don't know if you've ever watched his stuff, but he does like comedy stuff, but he's talking about like haunted objects. And one of the objects he was talking about was the Letta doll, the "Oi, governor, Letta." But apparently, there's more to the story that she is supposedly like possessed by some ghost that had been like either they murdered people or they were murdered and became like a vengeful spirit.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. But ugh, I don't know. I hope that none of this is true. Like I hope there's not even a slight bit of truth to these stories cuz man, if there are, that's so scary.
Those damn Aussies. "Oi, governor, let me out."
It's so bad.
It's my accent is impeccable. I could go to Australia and I would just blend in. My brother one time told me, and he's just as white and bald as I am, my older brother. His wife is Arab, and they were going to, I think Yemen a few years ago. And I was like, "You're gonna stand out like a sore thumb." And he's like, "No, I look Arab." And I was like, "Have you like you look like me? I am pale as hell. Like, like you're not. You don't look Arab at all, dude. Like, you have a red beard."
That is hilarious. No. If you believe it enough.
But he also did like an ancestry test, and we are like 1% black, but it's because like one of our ancestors enslaved had a slave that they impregnated. So awful circumstances. Like I wouldn't want to take ownership of that, awfulness. But he's like, "Yeah, I'm black," and I was like, "Okay, you're not black, dude. Like you have to stop. Like you have to stop with this. Do not say that. Like keep that error percentage to yourself."
I look Arab.
I look out. Yeah, I was like, "You do not, man. You okay? You go with that though. You tell them that."
Oh man. If you believe it in your heart, it makes it true, I guess.
Apparently, he came back alive, so I'm sure he didn't do anything stupid. um, okay. So I started having trouble sleeping after that. Mr. Widemouth often woke me up at night, saying he put a real trampoline under the window, a big one that I couldn't see in the dark. I always declined and tried to go back to sleep, but he always persisted. Sometimes he stayed by my side until early morning, encouraging me to jump. He wasn't so fun to play with anymore. My mother came to me one morning and told me I had her permission to walk around outside. She thought the fresh air would be good for me, especially after being confined to my room for so long. Ecstatic, I put on my sneakers and trotted out to the back porch, yearning for the feeling of sun on my face. Mr. Widemouth was waiting to see me. I have something I want you to see, he said. I must have given him a weird look because he then said, It's safe, I promise. I followed him to the beginning of a deer trail which ran through the woods behind the house. This is an important path, he explained. I've had a lot of friends about your age. When they were ready, I took them down this path to a special place. You aren't ready yet, but one day I hope to take you there. I returned to the house, wondering what kind of place lay beyond that trail. 2 weeks after I met Mr. Widemouth, the last load of our things had been packed into a moving truck. I would be in the cab of that truck, sitting next to my father for the long drive to Pennsylvania. I considered telling Mr. Widemouth that I'd be leaving, but even at 5 years old, I was beginning to suspect that perhaps the creature's intentions were not to my benefit, despite what he said otherwise. For this reason, I decided to keep my departure a secret. My father and I were in the truck at 4 a.m. He was hoping to make it to Pennsylvania by lunch the next day with the help of an endless supply of coffee and a six-pack of energy drinks. He seemed more like a man who was about to run a marathon rather than one who was about to spend 2 days sitting still. Early enough for you? He asked. I nodded and placed my head against the window, hoping for some sleep before the sun came up. I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. This is the last move, son, I promise. I know it's hard for you, as sick as you've been. Once daddy gets promoted, we can settle down and you can make friends. I opened my eyes as we backed out of the driveway. I saw Mr. Widemouth's silhouette in my bedroom window. He stood motionless until the truck was about to turn onto the main road. He gave a pitiful little wave goodbye, steak knife in hand. I didn't wave back. Years later, I returned to New Vineyard. The piece of land our house stood upon was empty except for the foundation, as the house burned down a few years after we left. Out of curiosity, I followed the deer trail that Mr. Widemouth had shown me. Part of me expected to see him jump out from behind a tree and scare the hell out of me, but I felt that Mr. Widemouth was gone, somehow tied to the house that no longer existed. The trail ended at the New Vineyard Memorial Cemetery. I noticed that many of the tombstones belong to children.
Man, I want to know the history of that house. Like, how many children passed in that house? Were they all at that gravesite? I would look them up, cross reference here. We got to figure some things out.
That, I don't know. That's just such a, like, I'm glad the kid didn't jump, but like, holy shit. Like, I mean, how many 5-year-olds have the intuition, like, that something's wrong? Like, but then still talk to this guy. I'd be like, dude, I want to punch you across this freaking house. Like,
Yeah. But also, like, I think about, like, my sweet little 5-year-old, and he is so impressionable. Like, if he thought this person was cool enough. I don't know. I was starting to picture, like, an Alice in Wonderland kind of little, I don't know, goblin.
I thought you were gonna say like the was it the cat? Was it a caterpillar that was like smoking the?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I was
That's
picturing
what.
more like kind of built like the Mad Hatters, somebody who'd be at the table for the Mad Hatter, but this would be a really dark version. Just some sort of, or some like the labyrinth, there's just like some weird things around there, like something dark and tricky. And what a smart 5-year-old, but holy cow, like, how do you keep telling this thing no and not think that it's not going to just take you out itself?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, how many 5-year-olds have the like realization that no, I shouldn't do this, but like also, I mean, in my opinion, if it's a demon that's possessing this creature or whatever, like how did he not know they were gonna leave? Like, or why didn't he follow them?
Well, also, was it like fever induced, like him being in this household that made him sick, or was he seeing this stuff because he was sick?
Yeah. Was it that thin veil that you mentioned, or is it like just hallucinations?
Yeah, especially mono, like that can take you out.
Have you had mono?
I don't know if I have, or I've just experienced enough people having it over my lifetime. I was a tonsillitis kind of kid. Yeah, I had tonsillitis a lot. But yeah, I don't think that I had mono. Although I'm a girl, so most of the time when I went, they were just like, virus, good luck. Nothing else I could do about that.
It's all in your head.
I can't tell you how many times I've been to the doctor. Like, my kids have double ear infections. My mom has a double ear infection. I think whatever virus I have, like, can you just check? It really hurts. And they're just like, it's a virus. Good luck. Here's some follow up papers for if it's untreated strep, but it's a virus. Like, so you're telling me I do have strep right now? Or like, I don't know.
Why are we not treating it? Do you think? Okay, I think that the house is burned down by a kid that Mr. Widemouth convinced to burn it down, and I think he did it so he could get out. I think he was trapped in that on that property, like in that house or whatever, or at least tied to the house. And I think burning it down allowed him to leave and find new victims. And I think that only kids see him. Um, and that's why his parents, even though he hid away, never saw him like in the window or like, out and about.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it sounds like maybe something about like that. Kids are so new to this realm that they are more in touch with that kind of stuff, and parents couldn't see what was going on. I'm sure they could have seen like some parts of it if it truly existed. Like if there was like a box of knives. I think his parents sounded like they were in it enough to know like what's going on in his room and stuff. So I don't know. Where did this box of knives come from?
Like you've been in your room the entire time and you haven't left. Where the fuck did these knives come from?
Yes, and is it like their house knives? Did he just like clean out the whole kitchen? Because it was quite a big house for the three people. It doesn't sound like they had like a ton of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I think Mr. Widemouth is magical and like keeps a box of knives handy to like I do wonder like how far he would have kept escalating it, like what he would do next. Like first it's trampoline, then it's the knives, then it's trampoline. It's like the next thing like, oh, drink this drink. It's like bleach.
Yeah,
Like
something like that. Like, in what it doesn't sound like he can actually just go and kill him, but he wanted the child to do it for him.
now the real question is in a fight, do you think Mr. Widemouth or the smiling dancing man would win?
I mean, Mr. Widemouth sounds. The smiling dancing man is fast, so
He
and
could run
tricky.
away.
But Mr. Widemouth sounds like he's street. So I think Mr. Widemouth probably. I don't want to meet either of these people in a dark road and find out, but
There's actually and I'll send you this too. There's someone made a YouTube short of the dancing man, like some independent filmmaker, and it's like it's honestly everything I thought it would be. Like everything I imagined this dude like doing, just in video form. Pretty crazy.
that sounds so scary. I'm open to it. I won't sleep tonight. It'll be fine. I need to stay up late.
Ah, well, that is all I have for today's episode. Just two stories. I thought that one was longer than it was. I guess I didn't really. It said 6-minute read, and I was scrolling through. I was like, "This is not a 6-minute read." It was more like a 40-minute read, but I breezed through it quicker than I thought I was going to.
I mean, there was so much to that story. It that is petrifying. I don't know. It's gonna stick with me, both of them. Just because, like, what's the scariest things out there? There's like I've heard of the guy with the smile that's too big for his face, and honestly, they both went that way.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, walking through some like, in the cemetery, for instance, and seeing some freaking man just, like, the fucking big ass smile on his face.
Yeah, the first thing that pops in my head is like a very like scarecrow jack-o'-lantern type thing, and then going through like what they looked like. It got into like a very like old Batman cartoons mixed with like a Three Stooges kind of like old timey look for the dancing man, and then I I don't even know. There were so many different looks in my head for the what did we call him? I don't even remember.
Oh,
The,
Mr. Widemouth?
yes, Mr. Widemouth. Yeah, he's he had several different looks in my head as you're going through it, but then they're like, you kind of look like a Furby. I'm like, okay, what's that look like? So he's
I
trying to be
think
cute.
like, I do think he looks, in my brain, like a cross between a frog and I guess also the gremlin, whatever the pre-gremlin version is, and the caterpillar from, Alice in Wonderland, just smoking
Yeah,
pipe.
honestly, the a gremlin wouldn't be that far off from one of the looks that I was picturing, like because they're kind of maniacal. I don't know the things that they got into. That was kind of a funny movie too, but I wouldn't want to deal with them.
Um, so the reminds me of I don't think you've heard it from me, the story about the lady, not really a hitchhiker. She's kinda like a lady who's sitting on a bench at a stoplight and, like, walks up to a guy's car. Have you heard that one yet? Have I told you that one yet? 'Cause I think
Yeah,
I yeah, okay. Yeah, that one's I don't know if that one's more terrifying or if, the wide smile one is more terrifying, but
I don't know. I feel like the wide smile one freaks me out because you just how quickly things went, and then going back and forth. Like I don't know. These stories, I feel like were especially spooky this week. You were like, "Oh, we're not going to be that spooky."
there was one I was gonna read that I had to go off of 'cause it was super long, but it was like I think the title was, um, "For 30 years, I've been receiving letters from a land that does not exist." And it's, like, rated as a 24-minute read, which I'm pretty sure is like an hour and a half, 2-hour read, but, like, I think if you guys if the audience, you like this kinda stuff, like us reading these scary stories, I think we should read in a multi-episode series, The Left Right Game, because it's probably the one podcast I listened to that did it was like a 4-hour read. So it'd be like 4 episodes for us to do it, but it's totally worth it, and it's like you just know, like, the surface level, and it's, like, so much better on the inside.
Oh man, I would do that.
So, guys, if you like this kinda stuff, let us know. Give us a shout, and we'll keep doing it, or if we'll just go back to our regular scary content. I like to switch it up every now and then to have, like, a few pieces of everything, in the kettle. So, um, hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and, we will see you next week.
Bye. Watch.